the same breath, I would like to now invite Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhary, former Chief of Air Staff, who's really been kind enough to join us on the inaugural session. Sir, may I request you to kindly address us? Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, thank you, Mr. Rajkumar Sharma and your team at AICRA for organizing this event for the 5th time in a row. I think it's an excellent occasion to discuss the role of big data, AI, and how it is going to enhance the military capabilities and decision making. You know, I come from a generation like much younger than the general who was here before me. But even for us, born and brought up on science fiction novels authored by Arthur Clarke and such like, a thing like having a drone here in the auditorium was too much of science fiction. So for me to now address an audience who are so well versed in the virtues of artificial intelligence and its applications is going to be a daunting task indeed. But let me start by, mentioning that what I'm going to speak about is primarily the use of AI in the military, the way I envisage it. And mind you, I come from a generation which may not be as knowledgeable as most of the younger generation today is. But from my point of view, I look at it firstly, how is the global situation? Today, we use the word, it is complicated or complex. First of all, I would say it is a very complex strategic environment. This word has many meanings. Firstly, that there are so many interrelated variables that the evolution and consequences of any one single event is very difficult or almost impossible to predict. From a military point of view, this means we are living in a world where surprise is a certainty and resilience is a necessity. One of the aspects of complexities of the increasing pace of these kind of technological disruptions is that it presents us not only with threats but also with opportunities. And the two key elements of these technological disruptions are data and AI. Data needs to be considered as the most important strategic resource in our current environment. I will focus today on the data-centric and digital technologies for which we need to reassess the way we integrate data in our processes and evaluate how data and consequently AI will transform the way we approach these challenges. In terms of military usage, a data-centric approach could be used for the development of predictive tools to identify the early signs of a crisis. More precisely, it can be used to detect trends and signals that may have no obvious links to our area of interest, but when connected together, can inform us on a developing crisis, as well as detect disinformation, propaganda campaigns, and so on, and it will also help us in speeding up the decision-making process. Data is definitely going to change the way our forces will operate. Imagine a simple case where in a conflict situation, an army unit is pinned down by enemy fire, and the army unit is seeking out support from the Air Force or from any other service. So the sequence of events typically would be that the army unit would call up its immediate headquarters, who then would seek what are the available resources, thereafter place a demand or a request with, let us say, the Air Force, who will now nominate a forward air controller or maybe a drone to guide an incoming aircraft onto the target. Mind you, this drone may be launched from one base, the aircraft from a second base, the forward air controller may be completely alien to these bases from which these systems are being launched from. It's a long sequence of events which uses point-to-point communication, point-to-point decision-making, and it is definitely a long-run approach. Let's see how AI can alter the situation. Here, the same soldier or unit will send a request for support. The system will locate the location of the unit or the soldier who's calling for support. It will automatically update the entire operational environment. It will process the problem analyze the soldier's ecosystem, that is, what else does he have around him, what are the vehicles, what is the collateral damage that may happen in case of XYZ weapon being used, and so on. It will now assess what are the sensors, vehicles, aircraft, maybe even a ship close by, which can engage with the target. All these elements will be interconnected through an operational architecture, of course, a secure one, and the assets will exchange data in real time. The combatant will be able to process and validate the targets, will be able to offer engagement solutions, assess the levels of risk, taking into account all the rules of engagement. Once the target is approved, one of the assets will assume control over the others and proposes the best engagement option. A human will still decide, but he or she is not necessarily located within the battle zone. Depending on the operational architecture in place, this responsibility can definitely be decentralized. Any of these steps can be automated depending on the rules of engagement until the required effect is delivered. It is no longer a question of soldier, which unit, which gun, which aircraft, or what is the command and control system. It is the service that must be delivered at the point of necessity. This approach is not new by itself, definitely not new, but it is revolutionary in the military environment, where we have been very used to a vertical decision-making process, and where centralized decisions and control of forces happens in one headquarters or maybe a few distributed headquarters. Now, this new approach, based on data managed with artificial intelligence, entails a new concept that gives subordinates, the control over their own capabilities. This is a big evolution. Entrusting subordinates to take control of capacities are not necessarily assigned to them is where, and when the effects can be delivered on time and target, is where AI will play a huge role. It requires a significant change in the way we think of delivering effects, and consequently in how we conceive our command and control architectures. In the last few years, there have been many highly publicized advances in AI. I will just touch upon it from the military point of view, which are the most significant ones that I consider. First, of course, is the progress in natural language processing, where models are achieving new levels of accuracy and fluency. Next area of progress has been in the field of computer vision, with new techniques for image and video analysis achieving breakthrough results. However, I think the most significant development of AI has been the wide public availability of generative AI. Particularly impressive recent developments include improvements in large language models that have permitted applications like ChatGPT to receive prompts and create responses in the format of a conversation with the user. These outputs could also include photorealistic images generated on the basis of text alone. Lastly, one of the driving forces behind the exciting advancements in AI is the advent of multimodal AI, which means that one AI system can receive and interact with inputs formatted as text, images, audio, and video from another AI system. This means more than ever, humans can interact with AI in a similar way they interact with other humans. And this broadens the type of work that AI can be expected to do for us in the military. Let me touch upon a few more areas where significant use can be made of AI. Warfare systems, such as weapons, sensors, navigation equipment, aviation support and surveillance, they already employ AI in order to make operations more efficient and less reliant on human inputs. The efficiency results in less maintenance, more importantly, less downtime of equipment. One of the best benefits of artificial intelligence in the military is an area that some military commanders may feel hesitant to let AI contribute, and that is helping with the strategic decision-making and educational programs. AI-powered language models can read training models and other sources and use them to create new training materials. Just as an matter of interest, the Indian Air Force itself last year had launched what we call Vayu GPT. It's an one-stop reference for all the technicians and pilots on some aircraft systems and specific notes. We need to capitalize on the AI's capability to evaluate students' current abilities and tailor training to their specific needs. We can now, with the capabilities of what the AI has, we can stop a common training program across the field and have curated training programs dependent on the students or the trainees' individual requirements. When it comes to the aviation world, you all heard of what flight data recorders are, the black boxes. Information from FDRs, flight data recorders, coupled with previous combat experiences and debriefs of previous flying missions, can help craft comprehensive training programs tailored for every individual in the service. One of the most exciting developing military applications, of course, has been what we call the swarm drones or the swarm technologies. These swarms of drones are inherently much more effective than a single drone for several reasons. When a drone receives a vital information, it can act upon it or communicate it to other drones in a swarm. These swarms can have the ability to make decisions in a variety of situations, with the swarm having an overarching objective, but individual drones having ability to act independently towards it. Here is where the possibilities of utilizing swarm drones, even in peacetime situations, are actually endless. The Indian Air Force had curated a program a few years ago. It was a competition that was christened as the Meher Baba Swarm Drone Competition to generate interest among the academia and the startups and the industry to create swarms of drones that can be utilized in an HADR situation. For example, the task given was to be able to deliver 50 bottles of water, 1 liter bottle, to 50 individuals stranded at 50 different locations and return back to base. So with that as a starting point, the developments were made, and today I think the possibilities of using them in combat situations has grown manifold. Toward the end, I would like to say that the character of warfare has been changing with time. Every conflict that we see today gives us something new to learn from. Warfighting concepts and doctrines have become highly dependent on technology and innovations, and new and disruptive methodologies have overshadowed the conventional battlefield tactics. The armed forces must be prepared to compete and win in an environment where a force's ability to rapidly make sense of large amounts of data increases in any future conflict. In short, I think the time has come for us to become data-centric forces in which both our technological networks and our people are organized in such a way that data is visible, accessible, and understandable, not only to the commanders, but even at the lowest rung. Our networks must be secure, be able to interoperate to ensure seamless sharing of the data. Today, we are already talking about AI becoming the 6th domain of warfare. That is, some of you would have heard the other domains: conventional land, air, sea, cyber, and space. So the 6th domain is now AI. And AI is creating interdependencies among all these domains, which are being augmented through traditional deterrent mechanisms. Finally, as we become more data-centric, we will require a more data-literate force. Leaders at all levels must be data literate and technologically competent to maximize the advantages of employing human-machine integrated formations and advanced networks. Remember that technology will punish unskilled commanders and untrained people. It is imperative now that we start with a holistic approach to address war's changing characteristics. And here I compliment AICRA for organizing a seminar like this and an interaction with the leaders and the experts from the military to take this forward. I hope you have fruitful discussions and debates over the next 2 days, and I wish this symposium and a seminar all the very best. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, sir, for your enlightening address. May I now request and call upon Air Marshal S.P. Dharkar, PVSM, UISM, AVSM, to give his keynote address. Before I invite him to the fore, I'd like to recite a small couplet, sir. कि मंजिलें उन्हीं को मिलती हैं जिनके सपनों में जान होती है। मंजिलें उन्हीं को मिलती हैं जिनके सपनों में जान होती है। पंखों से कुछ नहीं होता, हौसलों से उड़ान होती है। Ladies and gentlemen, Vice Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal S.P. Dharkar.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a proud privilege and an honor to be here this morning. And at the very outset, I'd like to thank all the organizers here at AICRA for firstly having organized this event, and secondly, of course, thank you so much for having invited me across. I am certain that everybody here understands this entire game about artificial intelligence much, much more than I do. And so it'll be unfair for me to even try and match whether, as pointed out by General Prasad about some of its historical precedents, as also by Air Chief Marshal Chaudhary about how it affects the military. I would be probably taking or attempting to take coal to Newcastle, and I will stop myself from doing that. And yet, since artificial intelligence and the way it has proliferated in the recent past affects all of us, almost now, I would believe, much more than on a daily basis, it probably affects us every hour of our existence here. I think it would be relevant and somewhat important that I give it a little perspective in terms of how this entire domain is likely to affect us somewhere into the future. I will not attempt crystal gazing, but I would like to point out that when H.G. Wells talked about interplanetary travel,